Namor is finally in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Look at this!
Ruling the underwater kingdom of Talokan, Namor and his people were surely affected by Thanos' snap and the blip. But to what capacity? Let's do what fans do best and analyze, speculate, and spread rumors online as to what really happened to Talokan after Thanos' snap. Before we get into the snap, we should lay out a little groundwork for terminology and motive purposes. Kukulkan and Talokan are what they're called in the MCU, while Namor, Mackenzie, and Atlantis are what they're called on the page. Names were obviously changed for Aquaman did it first purposes.
I'm just like Aquaman, but I can't get fish to do things.
That's the big thing.
That's neither here nor there. There are really not many differences between both iterations of the Submariner in regards to physicality and superpowers. However, in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, the character's backstory and motives were slightly and beautifully altered, specifically in regards to his ethnicity and reasoning behind his name. Born of Hispanic descent, Namor's mother, Fen, was a part of a Mesoamerican tribe that consumed a glowing blue vibranium plant which they found underwater, transforming them into the first of the Talokan and mutating her baby into Namor. As a child, he would witness atrocities on the surface world, which would fill him with rage. Namor went ahead and slaughtered who he saw as aggressors, with one man calling the mutant El Niño Sin Amor, Namor meaning without love. To contrast this, his comic book counterpart is simply called Namor Mackenzie and does not share the same heritage or method of mutation, and is a world leader interested in protecting his underwater nation. Now that that's all out of the way and we're kind of caught up with the history of Talokan, it's only appropriate that we talk about a few more of the characters that have been surrounding Namor's life, both on screen and in the pages, before figuring out how Thanos' snap may or may not have affected the underwater kingdom. Namora, also known as Aquaria Neptuna, is the cousin of Namor, and was seen fighting alongside him during Wakanda Forever. In the comics, Namora is adopted into the royal family, born the daughter of an Atlantean man and a human woman, the opposite of Namor's situation. Within the MCU, there really is no indication that Namora is anything but a purebred Talokanian, which I think is what you would call them. But we do know that she is definitely the strong silent type, literally. Namora did not say much in Wakanda Forever, and the film did not deep dive into her past. However, we do know that she is a fierce fighter.
I like this one.
And exceptional among others of her kind. Back in the books, Namora is a vibrant superheroine who rocks stereotypically flamboyant tights and, all of the works. Another character who we saw backing Namor as the ultimate muscle of Talokan was Attuma, who is a heavy player in our overall theory, so we'll get to him a little bit later on. Although most Talokanians, or Atlanteans on the page, do support and even worship Namor, as he is often referred to as the feathered serpent god, there are many characters who have tried to kill and overthrow the ruler of the underwater kingdom, including his own family. An example of this in the comics is another one of Namor's cousins called Baira, who was friendly with the Submariner his whole life, but secretly resented him due to his half-blooded nature. As mentioned before, Baira even tried to vanquish Namor and take over the throne for himself. In another instance, a friend of Namor, an Atlantean soldier called Murano, would sell out the entire nation of Atlantis to the Nazis, joining their Reich and becoming known as U-Man. Remember, due to Namor's perceived superiority garnered by his mutation, many characters have Namor looking over their shoulders. With all this backstabbing, jealousy, and treachery interwoven throughout Atlantis' complicated history, who's to say that these same things are not, or haven't been, happening in Talokan already within the MCU? And this is where Attuma comes into play. In the comics, Namor and Attuma are the greatest of rivals, battling over the throne of Atlantis since the two have first crossed paths. You'd be hard-pressed to find a single time that Attuma ever bested Namor in a scrap, but he has outsmarted and come close to defeating the Submariner on a few rare occasions. In the MCU, Attuma was portrayed as Namor's primary muscle, and he has played that position in the comics a few times, as when the fate of Atlantis or Talokan is at hand, they know how to band together despite their rivalry. However, if Namor were to leave his underwater home for any extended period of time, you can bet your last seashell that Attuma is making a play for the King's chair. Now, I do know that the two were strictly allies during the events of Wakanda Forever, and perhaps Namor's call for retreat planted seeds of doubt and resentment from Attuma towards his ruler, bitter about the defeat to Wakanda. Perhaps this dissension has happened before, and we simply are not privy to that knowledge yet. Whether or not this rivalry and these themes are explored and expanded upon further in the MCU moving forward, in the likes of a Submariner standalone film or something like that, or possibly we could see some flashbacks or get an animated prequel series or something like that. Namor vs. Attuma is definitely something that will happen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in some capacity at some time, if I had to venture a guess. Now let's get to the snap. What really happened to Talokan during the blip? We all remember the Infinity Saga, where Thanos the Mad Titan ultimately retrieved the Infinity Gauntlet and garnered the power of all 6 Infinity Stones, turning half of the entire universe to dust. It was a really fun time. Thanos was initially successful in his supervillainous vocation. Not only was half of the world's population turned into dust or gone for 5 years, many of the Avengers and their rogues gallery were also taken out. And to this very moment in the MCU, we are still discovering who was and was not blipped away.
He blipped, so technically he's 16, not 21. I'll take that.
Surely characters that we've already met but have not caught up with in a while were snapped away, or affected drastically by all the events to say the least. And certainly people we did not know at the time of Infinity War, and people that we're about to meet in the upcoming phases 5 and 6 were affected by the blip as well. But this seems to pose a couple more questions. What happened in Talokan specifically? Who of the underwater race got snapped away? And why did the Talokanian not get involved in the battle for Earth? None of this was explicitly stated or touched upon in Wakanda Forever. However, it is safe to assume that the Talokan we witnessed in that movie was once recently rebuilt and moved on from the events of Endgame. Surely this also halted the surface world from locating Talokan.
It's an earthquake under the ocean. We handle it by not handling it.
Which would have triggered the aquatic race earlier on than it happened in the timeline. Now here's the thing. Is it possible that the feathered serpent god Namor himself was snapped away by Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet? Could it be that Attuma sat in the Submariner's place on the throne, taking over as ruler of Talokan? Perhaps this is why Namor and the Talokanian were so united and ready to fight with Wakanda. Perhaps they recently went through their own turmoil, and now that they sense another new threat from the surface world, Namor was immediately ready to nip it in the bud. Surely Kukulkan and Talokan were aware of Thanos' initial presence and invasion, and they were certainly aware when he left.
Where'd he go?
This could explain why the Talokan chose to stay out of the battle for Earth, as they were in shambles with the disappearance of their king Namor. It's also possible that Attuma refused to allow the Talokanian to help the surface world, telling his people that whatever happens up there is on the humans and Talokan needs to fend for itself. You have to remember that Namor is considered a deity to his people, and they have strong beliefs against the way the surface world has conducted themselves throughout history. In the comics, Attuma and Namor established a rivalry early on, but agreed to carry on a fake friendship in order to keep peace among their people. However, during any extended leave of absence by Namor from the seas, Attuma seemingly always finds a way to radicalize and lead extremist groups of Atlanteans in uprisings against the surface world. Believe it or not, Attuma prefers to rule with an iron fist, and is even more ruthless and aggressive than Namor in that regard. Which is crazy because we've seen him not only destroy Wakanda in the comics, but in the movies now as well. It is also possible that a play at the throne on behalf of Attuma was less nefarious at heart. Perhaps Attuma is the M'Baku to Namor's T'Challa, placing himself in the role of protector of their nation until their true leader returned as the strongest warrior of their aquatic race. Maybe Namor already had to fight Attuma for the rights to his throne back. Or, as mentioned previously, it is most plausible that Attuma's backstabbing ways have simply not shown themselves yet, and could be coming in the near future. Attuma's resentment towards the mixed blood mutant Namor could have become greater due to the Submariner's choice to back down from Wakanda. A coup could already be in the works. Or this could all be entirely speculation, which it probably is, but a boy can dream, damn it. And there you have it. That's what could have, maybe, probably really happened to Talokan after the snap. What else could have happened during the blip? Tell us some of your theories centering on the 5-year time gap in the comment section below. And while you're down there, be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, as well as enable notifications so you don't miss a moment of aquatic comic content.